Who dat? Welcome to the podcast you've been waiting for. Great perspective and exclusive interviews.
It's a hard job for those guys because it's happening fast.
The kind of Saints insight and fun commentary you won't get anywhere else.
We've got plenty of technology to speed things up.
It's time to kick off your Been There, Done That Saints podcast, where we hand it off to our host, Mike Nabors, and Super Bowl winning linebacker, Scott Shanle.
Proud of these guys.
There's a sense that you obviously don't want to miss any game, but this is a big game, a big challenge for this football team with the defending Super Bowl champs coming. I know you love to play in this game. Is there extra motivation knowing the opponent is of this stature coming into the Superdome?
Yes. You know, you get to play against arguably one of the best teams in the NFL right now in the Chiefs with one of the best quarterbacks. So it's a great challenge. And if you love football, you love these kind of challenges.
Welcome to the only podcast that goes one-on-one with Saints quarterback Drew Brees, even during the last month where he has sat out of action with the New Orleans Saints. It's another rendition of your Done Dat podcast. I'm your host, Mike Nabors. I'm going to bring in my teammates, producer Justin Thomas, and my partner, Scott Shanle. Shanle, I asked Brees after the Eagles game, does this Kansas City Chiefs game mean more? Without hesitation, yes. He's back at practice. What's your gut with Drew Brees right now?
My gut right now is I think we see Drew Brees this week. And that's just, I don't know any information. That's just my gut feeling. I think you listen to his answer about the Kansas City Chiefs being kind of a measuring stick for everybody in the NFL as the defending world champions. And, there's this young, up-and-coming, hotshot quarterback. And you can't tell me for 1 minute, if Drew Brees can breathe and throw a ball, I think he'll be out there Sunday.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was I'm not going to say a smokescreen, but just part of the process that he's back at practice. I thought it was indicative, though, that Sean Payton said, he's back at practice because we have that right to do that, but he's still got a ways to go still. Now, to me, a ways to go still, does that mean a couple weeks? Does that mean a couple days? But I'm with you right now. I mean, Justin, I don't know how you feel. I saw Drew Brees a year ago. He had the thumb. It was much different than the ribs and the punctured lung. He had a bye week to rest, and he came back before the bye week. He's going to come back as soon as he can. What's your gut right now?
I'm somewhere in between. I definitely know that Brees wants to play, and he probably has a huge influence of what decision Sean Payton makes. I just don't know if we should risk him coming back, especially that we've already clinched the playoffs. Let him heal a little bit. I know we need to win as many games as possible, but maybe we let him sit out one more week. It's a tough decision to make.
Yeah, my gut says he doesn't play against the Chiefs, but I will never rule Drew Brees out, given the fact that he's bounced back from so many major injuries, and they've been different. He came back before the bye week a week ago. But Shanle, to me, this whole thing with Drew, it's just so hard to tell. It's like a hamstring injury, the ribs. I mean, with the thumb a year ago, we saw the progression. Like you kind of mentioned in your first answer, it's just so hard to gauge this injury.
It is hard because with the thumb injury, obviously he had to get it repaired, but then you can do band work, you can do strengthening exercises, and you can start to feel and see that it's getting better in the way you're throwing a football. With these internal injuries, it's up to Mother Nature how fast you're healing. There's no rehab. I'm sure he's doing breathing exercises and different things like that, but other than that, you're up to Mother Nature and how fast that she wants to heal you. And that's really where he is. And when you have that many broken ribs, it's just not like you're going to heal in a week or two. There could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ribs that are just lingering longer and longer. So I think even when Drew does come back, he's not going to be 100%. And every time he's on the field, he's risking probably doing further damage to those ribs that aren't healed.
Let's talk to Drew Brees and hear what he had to say to me after the Eagles game in terms of his progress. Here's what he had to say over the last couple of weeks.
How do you feel compared to maybe a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago at this point?
Each week I feel better. Each day, I obviously have a plan in place as to the benchmarks that I need to hit in order to get to where I know that I can play and play effectively for this team. And all I can say is I'm close.
He's close, Shanle, and you got to be careful, obviously, with this injury. But how much would it drive Drew Brees crazy not to play in this game? You got the hotshot kid coming in, Patrick Mahomes. You got the defending Super Bowl champs. You heard when I asked him the question, is this extra motivation? Yes, yes. I mean, he'd go stir crazy not playing in this game if he can't play.
Yeah, I think the competitive side of him, wanting to be out there when everybody's talking about this Patrick Mahomes kid, and Drew's as competitive as anybody. We've talked about that, but I think the bigger picture for him right now is understanding the clock is ticking on his career. So, he doesn't have a chance to play in many more games like this. Hopefully, he has a lot of big games in January to play in that are going to be bigger than this. But right now, they want to get that number one seed. I really believe this team is focused on getting that number one seed, and it's a primary objective, their front goal right now, because they're probably going to win the NFC South outside just a major collapse. So getting that number one seed where only one team can get a bye, I think that's his main factor and main motivation for wanting to play and win this game.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny how the narrative changes week to week in the NFL, which leads us to Taysom Hill. And you and I like to debate Taysom Hill. I know you have your doubts about him. To me, it's more of I want it to work because he's a fun guy to watch. I'm still not 100% in. I think I'm more in than you. Can we agree on that?
We can absolutely agree on that.
Okay. Let's just set the tone right away. But Shanle, don't you think that it's a fun narrative though? Because even a week ago, before the Eagles game, I heard some national guys say, is it maybe a controversy? Maybe they're better with Taysom Hill. Maybe this offense is better. And then you have the Philadelphia game and it's crickets nationally. It's, they're just trying to get clicks to some degree. But after the game against Philly, would you say it's maybe a step forward, a step back? I mean, how do you feel about Taysom now compared to a week ago? Or do you feel the same?
Well, no, I think it's a step back because his first start it was whatever. He did a good job managing the game, and then I thought he threw the ball better against Denver, and then he threw the ball better against Atlanta, and so I was seeing glimmers. But there was that one remaining factor where everybody said we have not seen Taysom Hill have to throw the football. In every game, he's been able to hand the ball off and then throw when the chains dictate it. Well, now you got down, you had to drop back and throw every play. Philadelphia knew that. And that is where you see the doubt that I have in Taysom as a franchise quarterback in the NFL, because you have to be able to throw the ball when the defense knows you're going to throw the ball. And that's what separates the elite quarterbacks, the Bradys, the Rodgers, the Brees, guys who can throw when it's a pass. And I don't think Taysom has that. That's my doubt, is that I think he'll ever have that. But you know what? There's not saying he can't win games, because he's obviously shown he can win games, but he needs a running game and he needs a play action offense to be able to do that.
Right now, Shanle, the only team he's proven he can beat is Atlanta, because we throw that Denver game out. He owns the Falcons. That's it right now, pretty much, right?
Hey, if you put a Saints uniform on, I think you pretty much own the Falcons. So
Put that golf ball on a tee right there. But when you look at Taysom Hill and all of the things that go with him, and I'll always admit when I'm wrong. I'm not one of those guys that's going to hide behind, and I'm wrong a lot. I love the fact that I texted you guys when Taysom threw the touchdown to Jared Cook and they cut it to 3. They're winning this game, guys. And I don't think the Eagles are going to get in the end zone the rest of the way. Wrong. I was disappointed in the defense, and I don't know what happened to that offense after they climbed back. I mean, I really felt good about that game, and then there was nothing after that against Philly.
Yeah, and you know what? You sent us that text, and there was a little bit of doubt in my mind because number 9 wasn't at quarterback. That's just me being honest. I knew we were going to have to throw the ball really effective for that second half to do it. But you're right, Mike. My biggest disappointment is in the defense, and take Taysom out of it because I don't want to sound like a Taysom hater. I'm just a Taysom doubter more than anything when it comes to playing quarterback. The defense for the last 5 games, you've been sound in everything. You've been dominating the NFL, and then you let a rookie quarterback come out and run all over the field, and then you let a running back who's wouldn't start, I don't think, on many other teams in the NFL, run for 100 yards. It was a horrible showing by the defense. But the number one thing the defense was really bad at was containing the quarterback. All year long, they've gotten so used to pressing the pocket, putting an arm out, tackling these statue quarterbacks. Well, now you finally played somebody with some mobility, and you didn't adjust the whole game. That was the biggest disappointment to me.
Well, speaking of adjustments, I thought that Schwartz and the Eagles defense adjusted because Taysom, with the 2 touchdown drives, Shanle, they had plenty of time to keep it going, but then you didn't see anything from the offense the rest of the way. But what you did see was something we've seen from Taysom Hill since he's been a starter. He has 10 fumbles in 13 games, and you sent me this stat. Aaron Brooks has the record, 14 fumbles in 16 games. So your guy Taysom's knocking on the door for that one. And in fact, Aaron Brooks had 11 fumbles in each season from 2001 and 2004. Sorry, Saints fans, I didn't mean to make you sick in this podcast. Those are bad memories. But, I mean, you take away the fumbles and Taysom, I mean, the story's different, but that's such a big part of the story. And it continues to be the story. That's a disturbing part of his game, no doubt about it.
Well, that is, I was just going to say, my biggest frustration with Taysom right now is not his ability to beat man coverage with his throws or drop back every play and throw the ball. It's turning the football over. And if there's one thing that Sean Payton will not stand for, it's turning over the football. And I know for a fact, if Taysom wants to be the future of the franchise for the next couple years and be that man, he has to stop turning the football over, because once you lose that trust with Sean Payton, I'm telling you, he stood in front of our meetings many times and says, when you carry the football, you carry the hopes and dreams of everybody in this organization. So he does not take it lightly. So Taysom has to get that taken care of. That's a lot of fumbles. That is a ton of fumbles for a guy who has not played every snap. Like Aaron Brooks played every snap at least and had that many fumbles. Must protect the football, because you right now are closer to game managing and running the football and letting your defense win games, and you can't put your defense in bad positions. And lastly, I'll just say this. My disappointment in the offense, outside of Taysom fumbling, was Coach Payton not running the ball more. I felt like he abandoned the run way too early. I know they got down, but just felt like they could have wore down that Saints or the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I used to cover Tom Coughlin in Jacksonville, and he used to say fumbling is careless disregard for the football. I mean, these coaches, man, they don't mess around with that. I remember one time, when I used to do sidelines in the preseason, Mark Ingram fumbled twice, and it was early in his career, and he's walking off the field, and you could read Peyton's lips. Didn't get mad. It's almost like when your parents get mad at you, but they don't raise their voice, which makes you feel worse. Peyton looked at Mark Ingram, and he said, "That was two." And Ingram just looked at him. I mean, it was worse than him going off on him. It made him, I'm sure, feel pretty bad. But you go.
No, I was just going to say, these games are so close, especially in pro football, where the talent level is so equal. And I'll never forget, not only did Sean say, when you carry the football, you carry the hopes and dreams of everybody, he would always have stats. And the stats showed that if you won the turnover battle +1, you had a 78% chance of winning football games in the NFL just by +1. So when you turn it over twice, now you're up to like 85%. If you're ±3 in the turnover takeaway, you're in the 90 percentile winning a football game. So those turnovers are huge. Just you limit another team's opportunities by taking the ball from them.
You said it really well that, you're not a Taysom hater, you're a Taysom doubter. I'm kind of a Taysom optimist. I want to see this work. I see glimpses that it could work, and that it's always kind of the 2 steps forward, 1 step back with the big fumbles. But here's what Taysom Hill had to say this week about balancing not turning the ball over and still playing aggressive football.
There's a balance of, as an offense, that you also can't play timid in the sense that, we need to put points on the board and make sure that we're creating opportunities for us to score. So I think that there is a balance there. Certainly ball security is a premium, but I think it's important that we don't allow that to be a crutch where we're not putting points on the board.
Now, I find that very interesting, Shanle, because Jameis Winston, the other quarterback, and Sean Payton has said this making the rounds the last couple of weeks, that our future quarterback is in the room, meaning it could be Jameis too, along with Taysom Hill. But Jameis Winston had the same struggles, obviously trying to be aggressive but not turning the ball over. I could see this game playing out against Kansas City, where let's say Taysom turns the ball over early. Does Sean Payton think, you know what? He kind of your mindset, I don't know if we can keep up with them, but maybe we can with Jameis if he gets hot. Could we have that kind of scenario if Brees doesn't play, Taysom struggles early? Is this the week maybe we finally see Jameis just because of the nature of the opponent?
Yes, I definitely think so. I think Coach Payton served it up maybe yesterday or earlier this week that Jameis Winston has a future here. Now, he doesn't know whether a lot of it is going to be regarding, will he sign another 1-year deal? What's his free agency going to determine where he is? But I think that statement alone told me Taysom's been turning the ball over too much. If we get down in this game and have to throw the ball to come back, you will see Jameis Winston. I think that's what his comment was in relationship to. If Taysom isn't turning over the football, I think Coach Payton's trusting him as more. But right now, he's like, what the heck do I have to lose? This guy on the sideline has thrown for over 5,000 yards. He's thrown a lot of picks. If we're turning the ball over anyway, we may as well cut it loose with Jameis.
Absolutely, and they pretty much wrap the division up. I mean, they're not going to lose out here. I mean, the Bucs they're not world beaters right now, and the rest of the division is kind of in shambles. So not that that's the reason you do that, but their position is pretty good where they can take a look-see maybe at Jameis. Here's what Taysom Hill had to say about the areas he has improved as a quarterback.
Overall, my comfort level inside the offense, having plans for our offense, and my ability to get the play call, picture the play call, get in the huddle, call it so we have better tempo, and just the mechanics of operating inside this Coach Payton offense, which frankly is not an easy thing to do.
My favorite Taysom doubter. What do you think of those comments?
Hey, he's right on the money. I mean, Taysom's a smart guy. He knows exactly what's expected of him. He knows I can give you things that Coach Payton says every day in meetings. He sits in those same meetings and listens, and especially at the quarterback position, he knows the expectation. Now, everybody knows the expectation. It's a matter of going out there in the line of fire and being able to conduct it while everybody's moving 100 miles an hour around you. That's what separates players, because a lot of guys know what they're supposed to do. As a linebacker, I know I'm supposed to make a tackle. It doesn't always work that way because the other guy's getting paid money too, and he's an outstanding athlete. So you have to be able to condition yourself, whether it's the way you're practicing, the way you are preparing for the game, maybe mentally, to help eliminate those things. And some of those things just never come. I mean, Jameis Winston, I'm sure for years, they told him stop turning the ball over, and he didn't want to turn the ball over. But there's this mechanism that guys just have a hard time dealing with. I'm trying to make a play. I'm trying to make a big play. I'm trying to win this game for our team. And that's where you sometimes get into trouble.
We're going to touch on Patrick Mahomes, but we're really going to touch on him later on. It's not going to be our more likely segment. It's going to be a Mahomes likely. It's kind of a next level hypothetical stuff about the Saints and Patrick Mahomes. But I want to talk about the Saints being an underdog, which is very rare in the Peyton era. Some great numbers from Canal Street Chronicles, great article they put out there, and I'm referencing that. And Shanle, you were a big part of this. It's amazing. From 2009 to 2011, you guys were favored in every football game. How about that? Did you know that?
Wow. No, I had no idea. That's a pretty amazing stat, and one that I'm going to keep in the back pocket when somebody asks me about that run, because I know in that run we won more games than anybody else in the NFL, but I had no idea that we were favored like that.
Yeah, since 2006, Sean Payton's teams have been underdogs 70 times. That's the third fewest in the NFL, and then it's less than 1/3 of their games. And they're 30-40 as underdogs. And you would think that's not too good. Actually, that's the fourth best record in the NFL. But here's where it all changes. When they're home underdogs, they've only been underdogs at home 14 times in the Sean Payton era, the second fewest since 2006. And the record, they're 9-5 as home underdogs. And I'll say this, when they were underdogs for the only time this season against the Bucs, we saw what happened. There's something about Sean Payton, and we know how competitive he is. I mean, hell, all coaches are competitive. But we know something comes with Sean Payton the week that this team is an underdog. I mean, don't you see the difference a little bit? You played, I know 2009 and 2011 you weren't underdogs, but you played years where you were underdogs. Is it different in that building the week where people are doubting you, kind of like that?
Yeah, no question. No question. I've said time and time again, Sean Payton is the best motivator I've ever been around. I still think he's probably the best motivator in the NFL. Knows what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. And when it comes to the spread, guys, I never even knew what the spread meant, really, when I played. Never looked at it, never cared. And the first time we talked about it a lot was in the biggest game we've ever played in, was during the Super Bowl. For 2 weeks, Coach Payton talked to us about what the Vegas thought of us and what everybody else thought of us. And we used that for 2 weeks to motivate us. And he would bring in a board and he would say, here, spread's at 7.5 or the spread's at whatever. It's getting worse. They're out there predicting that it's going to be a blowout. And so he used the spread during the Super Bowl as motivation. That was the only time he's ever done it. But there is something about the way he gets you to feel inside the building and how it's a us against the world mentality that I've never been in any other team, never been any other meeting that a coach can do it the way he does.
Yeah, and you've told me stories about it. We've heard stories from people that have played under players that have played under Sean Payton. But man, it's got to be a little different. And you've even mentioned this. I like the stories you talk about where he'll come in the linebacker room and say, any you guys going to make a tackle this week, or he'll have some line for you. But I mean, the fact that it is the defending champs, it is Patrick Mahomes. All of this hype, but they're coming to the Superdome. It's not like this team's going to Kansas City. I would love to hear the things Peyton's saying this week.
Oh yeah, I mean, outside of the underdog thing and outside of the spread, I'm sure many of those guys have no idea what's going on, what Vegas is saying and what bettors are saying. All you need to know is you have the defending world champions coming in. You have Patrick Mahomes, who is the greatest thing since sliced bread, Mr. State Farm. Everywhere you turn, Mr. Bose headphones. Everywhere you turn, there's Patrick Mahomes. This defense is going to be on edge. They're going to want to make a statement because people are doubting them after last week. And so it's not going to take much from Coach Payton to get this team on edge. It's already going to be there. And I'm excited to see it. I just wish, it's games like this, Mike, where I wish we had a true home field advantage because there really is no home field advantage. And that's going to that's what scares me most about this game, to be honest. I felt like if we had 80,000 Houdat's in there, I would take the Saints all day, every day. But the home field advantage just gets it for me this year.
That's a great point. Yeah, you forget about that. And it's, something that looks like it's going to be with us the rest of the year. When you break down this Chiefs team, Shanle, and you look at them, they've kind of been vulnerable the last couple of weeks, but I think what makes them dangerous, and we even saw this in the Super Bowl last year, they could play really bad for a half, but Mahomes always gives them a chance. He really does.
And that speaks volumes about him. He's paired with Andy Reid, who is one of the greatest play callers we've ever seen in the NFL. And that makes them a dynamic duo. And then you throw in the weapons that they've been able to put around them, speed everywhere. That is a recipe for what you get every week. And the stat I just gave you, Mike, about turnover takeaway ratio that says you should lose games when you turn the ball over, it doesn't apply to these guys. And it's crazy. They were -2 in the turnover takeaway. Mahomes was throwing picks to Miami like it was his job. And just like that, before you know it, they erase a deficit and they're up by 14. And that's the explosiveness of their offense that is so dangerous. You don't see it at this level much. But you know what the Chiefs remind me of a little bit is they remind me of the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago where everybody's just like, let's just get to the playoffs. And that's how Kansas City plays. They play like they're bored sometimes, and they just want to get back to the playoffs where the games matter the most. And sometimes it causes stumbling blocks throughout the regular season.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was watching the Miami game, I hope the Chiefs win this game because if they lose it, obviously they're going to be even more upset, more focused coming in. Not that they're not going to be this week, but I kind of like the fact they came back and they're not coming off a loss. I don't know if you ever think that way at all. I think when there's a big game on the horizon, I don't want that team to have any kind of edge or a little chip coming in at all.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And, that's going to be there for the Saints this week. And I agree with you the same way. I was watching that game thinking, I love to see Tua playing well. I think Miami's done a great job. They'd be a great upset. And I thought the exact same thing you did is, if Miami loses or if the Kansas City loses this game, they're going to be extra focused next week, want to bounce back, make a statement against one of the better teams in the NFL. So hopefully we can catch them at the right time.
See, Shanle, we can agree on things once in a while. That works for us.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes.
We can agree on things.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, it's not more likely, it's Mahomes likely. Justin, are you ready? Shanle may think I'm crazy with some of these questions, but the best part about more likely, it's hypotheticals. You know what? It's probably, a little crazy in the stuff that I bring up, but it's fun to talk about, and it's fun to just think outside the box and be hypothetical in some of this stuff. So I'm going to ask 3 questions kind of along the lines of Patrick Mahomes, who we all know the Saints really were interested in drafting. I mean, Sean Payton's been very blatant about saying if Lattimore hadn't fallen to them, they were going to draft Mahomes. And that was the year that everybody was clamoring, you got to draft a quarterback who's going to replace Brees. I mean, Deshaun Watson was in that draft. You had Patrick Mahomes. Unfortunately for Chicago, Mitchell Trubisky was in that draft. So you have a lot of quarterbacks, and that looked the year that the Saints were going to jump on one. So the first one's going to be fun. I think Shanley's going to roll his eyes, but this is kind of a fun topic, All right, if Patrick Mahomes just, after this season has another season, and let's just say after this year, I'm not. Let's just say we don't really know what's going. We don't know what's going to happen.
It's taken him a long time to spit this out. It's going to be a good one.
And he pulls an Andrew Luck, and he's done. He walks away. Would he be a Hall of Famer right now? Justin Thomas, you go first. Would Patrick Mahomes, if he retired after this season, would he be a Hall of Famer?
All right, Mike. In this hypothetical, does he win the Super Bowl?
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say he walks away after the Saints game this Sunday because I'm not going to give you that because I don't know. I'm going to say what his resume right now.
All right.
If he walked away right now, would he be a Hall of Famer?
No. Look, he's amazing. He's a super talented player, and obviously the trajectory he's on, he can get there. But I just think he needs to play a couple more seasons. If he did 6 seasons at the way he's played, gets one more Super Bowl in 6 seasons, I would say yes. I even though it's amazing what he's done in 3 years, I just don't know if 3 years is enough to make it into the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to have to say no.
Okay, let me before I toss to Shanle.
Oh, wait, how come he gets special modified?
No, because I agree. You have very good points. You're TV savvy, you're podcast savvy, Justin. I'm going to be your agent, man. Moving forward, you're a media mogul, man. You're getting it done with the answers because you don't know. I'm not giving you the questions, but I will say this, Shanle. All right, Eli Manning's never been the MVP of the league. Phillip Rivers has never won the big one, never been to the big one. And both of them really never considered to be the best quarterback of any year they played in the league. Patrick Mahomes has been all that. I know it's a short sample size, but would he be a Hall of Famer if he just said, I'm done after Sunday's game?
Hell no. No.
Yes.
And you know what? Even if he won the Super Bowl and then retired, hell no. You don't get to go to the Hall of Fame because you had a splash moment in the NFL. And I'm going to give you an example of a player that kind of irks me that he's in the Hall of Fame. And, I know I'm not in the Hall of Fame, but I think the Hall of Fame is for players who changed the game, but not change the game for one game or one season or 2 seasons. To me, there's something powerful about being able to do this game for a long period of time and doing it well. That's what separates guys. Terrell Davis, the Denver Broncos running back, I have an issue that he's in the Hall of Fame because he had a couple of good years. They won some Super Bowls. He ran for a lot of yards. But to me, the guy never played long enough to be in the Hall of Fame with those running backs like Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders and guys like that.
I see all your points. I love the hypotheticals. But I also see guys like, to me, Fred Taylor had a better career than Terrell Davis. Okay. Yep. A guy like Tony Baselli, I covered in Jacksonville. If he hadn't have gotten hurt, he easily would have been the Hall of Famer. Hell, he may be a Hall of Famer anyway. He's on the door, knocking on the door right now. What if Mahomes had an injury in the next couple of years, but you knew he was an elite guy and you knew if he wasn't hurt, he would have had the long career? Does that make it a little better question or a little more difficult?
No.
So you're saying if he got hurt and that ended his career?
Yeah. If it's kind of like a Baselli type thing,
No, because there's been a lot of guys who could probably make that same case that they should be in the Hall of Fame, but injuries caught up to them, especially the older guys when medicine wasn't as good, surgeries weren't as good, doctors, they didn't have the same type of science. So, no, I'm not going to let him have the injury excuse either. I just think you have to do it for longer than he's done it. You can't be a splash player, and that's what drives me crazy.
All right. The funny thing is I agree with both of you, but I think it's just kind of an interesting thing to bring up because he to me has accomplished so much. And what really to me stands out about him, Shanle, is that I guess you could say Aaron Rodgers, but wouldn't you say it's consensus he's the best quarterback in the league, or do you put Aaron Rodgers in that category?
That's a great question. Right now, I think people, if you have a team to build, right, everyone's going to say Patrick Mahomes. Every single person is going to say Mahomes because of the length that he can continue to play for 15 more years. But I think if there's a lot of people that believe Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback right now. So if you have to go win 1 year, you got 1 year starting in 2020 or 2021, what quarterback do you want? And I think some people would say Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is the MVP because if you take Aaron Rodgers off of Green Bay, there's not a lot around Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot more around Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you got Kelsey, you got Tyreek Hill. I mean, what Rodgers has done in Green Bay, I think he should be the MVP this year. That's just my 2 cents on that. Okay, this is where it gets a little more interesting. We know that Sean Payton would have drafted Patrick Mahomes if Lattimore hadn't fallen into his lap. We've established that. But Justin Thomas, if that would have happened, okay, that would have been 2017. So this would have been, 4 years? It would have been 4 years into Patrick Mahomes' career. Would Drew Brees be a New Orleans Saint right now if they would have drafted Patrick Mahomes in 2017?
I've thought of this question before a couple times. I'm going to say Drew would have stayed around for probably the first 2 years. But I think last year with Drew's injury, I could see Mahomes coming in, lining up, and it really be tough for Drew to finish out. In fact, I think if Mahomes would have come in and played as well as they would, they probably would have moved on with with Drew. He cost a lot of money. Mahomes still at that time would have been on a rookie contract. I don't know. It's really tough because Sean Payton and Drew obviously have a really good relationship. But I think money-wise, I kind of think they would have moved on and had Mahomes take over.
Shanle, what do you think?
They're going to go 2 for 2 on the same answer. Hell no. And I love the man. I really do. But
I like the hell no's.
Hey, we've all seen Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, he's phenomenal. And I think the same thing would have happened in New Orleans that happened in Kansas City. I think Drew, instead of signing those 2-year extensions, would have been gone. They wouldn't have kept him at the price. And Justin hit it exactly right on the head. Salary cap wise, you have no reason to keep Drew around, even if as a backup. So my answer is no, because of Patrick Mahomes and what he brings to the table.
I'm going to say, hell yes, I agree with you, Shanle. I agree. There's no way Drew would still be on, which leads me to the next more likely. We're going next level in the Mahomes likely here. With Drew Brees, Justin, we're all saying he wouldn't be on the Saints for the most part here.
Right.
Okay? It's 2020. Patrick Mahomes is the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Where is Drew Brees right now? Is he with the Bucs, the Patriots, the Colts? Or you could go off the board and say he's retired or somewhere else. Where is Brees right now if Mahomes took over in, say, 2019? Where is Brees now?
I think, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but the one that made the most sense to me was the Patriots. I think you look at...
Ooh. Oh my God.
I know.
But look, 2019, though, Justin, 2019. So he would have beat Brady out.
Oh, you said 2020, Mike, didn't you?
No, 2019, because we all figured, 2 years in, Mahomes takes over, right?
Okay.
This is a progressive hypothetical, or we're progressing here.
Okay. Oh, I might have to change my answer then. I'm going to go with the Colts then.
Okay.
I think because obviously what happened with Andrew Luck, retiring coming out of nowhere to retire, I think that probably to me would have made the most sense. I think with Bruce Arians coming in, I think he wanted to prove that he could make Jameis Winston work, even though Drew would be a good player. Bruce Arians' system is to throw it down the field, and Drew obviously can't do that. So I think of those 3 options. I'm trying to think of some other options, other teams that maybe would have been available. But off the top of my head, with the 3 you gave, I'm going to go with the Colts.
Yeah, this is always kind of a work in progress because you guys give great answers and it makes me think of other teams. But the Colts would be interesting because it's in Purdue's backyard, so the Boilermaker Nation would love having Brees back in that state.
Oh, that's a great point.
But Shanle, what do you think? 2019 Drew Brees, is he still in the league, and where is he?
Yeah, I'm going back and forth and thinking in my head what the quarterback situations were for certain teams at the time. And my 2 teams I'm struggling with, Mike, are the Denver Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals. Because I think Arizona, West, you go west, you're playing inside. Those elements that would have been, if you would have had Drew before you drafted Kyler Murray, you probably would have drafted Joey Bosa. So, that roster would look way different. But I'm going to go with Denver. I think Denver would have been the logical spot because they have not had a quarterback since Peyton Manning.
I like that.
I like that.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the Bucs? I think they were still in that we're going to give Jameis more time stage there. They weren't Tampa, Brady. They weren't ready for that yet because it was 2019. How about this one though? I do like Denver a lot. How about the Chargers?
Oh, God, that'd be awesome.
He goes back there. They're tired of Rivers, and he's like, "I won it in New Orleans. Rivers couldn't win it here. I'll win it. I'll win it for you. I'll win it for you in LA." I don't know. That would have been kind of interesting, but that's just what makes more likely fun. Is I think a lot would have happened in that draft if Marshawn Lattimore doesn't fall to the Saints, and it's interesting to me. Jeff Duncan just wrote a great article in The Athletic about how they put together that 2017 draft class. It's really a magical class, especially when you look at Trey Hendrickson now. But boy, can you imagine if you added Mahomes to that 2017 draft class? Now, Lattimore's done exactly what they've wanted, but I mean, can you imagine Sean Payton with Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 to 15 years, Shanle?
Unfair.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine it. Yes, I really can. In fact, I imagine it every now and then what Patrick would look like in the black and gold, and it would be pretty phenomenal to watch in Coach Payton's offense inside the dome. It would be pretty outstanding. But, we only have hindsight is always 2020. What's
Yeah.
crazy is, Ryan Pace in Chicago sitting there looking at Sean Payton like, man, I wish he would have went after you guys so that you couldn't say you were going to take him.
Right, exactly. Poor Ryan Pace. What a great guy, too. It's crazy how life is, man. You just never know how this stuff's going to pan out. All right, let's get the predictions. We all lost last week. We all picked the Saints over the Eagles. So Justin's 9-3. Shanle and I are both 8-4. It's a tough one, man. Or maybe it's not for you guys. It's a tough one for me. But who's going to win this game and what's the score?
Man, it's so funny you say this is a tough one because I'm here thinking, God, I wish I wasn't going first. Because I'm sure whatever I say, y'all will come up with a good reason. Look, I'll tell you, last night I was talking to my wife, and she said, who do you think's going to win? And I said, well, look, I think that the loss to the Eagles came at a great time. I think the team thought they were on a high, kind of brought them down to earth. I'm sure they're going to use the fact that they lost, and now the media is starting to wonder if we're not as good as our record says. Sean Payton's going to use it as motivation, going to get them ready for the game. I've kept going on and on about all these things, and she's like, so you think they're going to win? I'm like, no, they're not. And I really, I just, the Chiefs are playing way too good. They're beatable. There's no doubt in my mind the Saints can do it. I just wonder if the Saints defense has looked really good because they've played some very mediocre teams. They kind of were exposed this past week. And then on top of that, like y'all said, the Chiefs have so many offensive weapons. I just don't know if they shut down Patrick Mahomes, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to take off? If they shut him down, is Mahomes going to be able to, there's just too many weapons, I think, for the Saints to stop them. And then on top of that, you have the whole Taysom Hill factor, who every time he seems to fumble or do something stupid at the most inopportune time. I really want to root for the Saints. I really, really do. But I just don't think there's a way for them to win this.
What score do you have for them?
You know what? I also don't think it's going to be close. I'm going to say the Chiefs have 38 and the Saints get, let's say, 24.
24. Next time your lovely wife, Karina, asks you what the score is, you say, honey, you got to listen to the Dundad podcast to find out. That's the appropriate answer. So, Shanle, I can't wait to hear your answer here.
I was a week early because I'm like Justin. I felt like this team was playing so well they were due for a letdown, and I thought it was going to be at Atlanta on the road, and it ended up being a week later in Philadelphia. So that letdown did come. But because of that letdown, and because I've seen the Chiefs play more this year than I probably watched them play at any point last year, I think the Saints are going to win this game. I think the Saints are going to win this game. I'm going to go 35-24. And here's my reasoning.
Whoa!
The Chiefs, listen to the people they've beaten. Miami, by 6. It was a good game. Denver by 6. Yeah, it was a close game. At Tampa Bay by 3. It was a close game. Vegas, they beat them by 4. It was a close game. They have not beaten. Their schedule is not that impressive. Yeah, you beat the Texans. You beat the Chargers, like the Jets. I think the Saints are a much better roster from top to bottom. The Chiefs have some pieces that are better than the Saints have. I think Sean Payton's going to come out. They're going to be more physical. They're going to run the ball all over this Steve Spagnuolo-led defense.
Yeah, we didn't touch on him today.
Here we go.
Oh, my God. We're going to run the ball all over their defense. We're going to manhandle them at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And you know what? Kelsey's going to catch the balls. We don't have anybody who can take him out man to man. Tyreek Hill might catch some balls, but I think Dennis Allen's going to take away the deep ball as best he can. I think our front four is going to get after this Kansas City offensive line, and I think the win's going to be 35-24.
Do you have Drew playing or Taysom? Because you said earlier.
I was about to ask that too.
That's with whoever wants to play quarterback.
Oh, Shanley's like, I'll do my 35-24 with Brees, Taysom, or Jameis, baby.
I'm telling you right now, I think the game's going to be won in the trenches, and I think the Saints O-line is much better outside of Chris Jones for them, is going to manhandle them at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and that's why you're going to get the score you're going to get.
I love it, man. You know what? What I don't love is you picked the Saints, though, because I wanted Justin to go Chiefs. I wanted Shanle to go Chiefs. I wanted to be the only one who picked the Saints, which is not the case now. And then I could jump Shanle and be, kind of tied with Justin. But it's going to be interesting because I'm going to pick the Saints, too. I love the whole underdog thing. I love the motivational part of it. And I love the fact that they lost to Philly. This defense is going to be fired up. I think Taysom's going to be fired up too to play a lot better. And if he doesn't, I don't think, I think we'll see Jameis a little bit, but I just think they're motivated to play better. But boy, just the intrigue around this game, if Brees doesn't play and Taysom struggles, maybe we see Jameis, but maybe Brees plays. We don't see Taysom or Jameis. I mean, there's so much intrigue about this game. But I say Saints 38-34 will win this game because I think the defense, even though they're going to give up 34 points, they're going to play better and they're going to keep this team in there and the offense will step it up a little bit. All right. Well, that's another podcast. Justin, where are we on Twitter?
At Dundad Podcast.
All right. And you can catch us on all the platforms, Podbean, Spotify, Google, Stitcher. Everywhere there's a podcast, we're on there. So please subscribe. Please give us your feedback. Boy, it's going to be an interesting Sunday of football in the Superdome as the defending Super Bowl champs come in. We'll actually going to take a break next week because of Christmas. But hopefully when we come back, the Saints have reeled off 2 wins, one against the Chiefs and one against the Vikings. And then the goal will be for the New Orleans Saints to be the first team in the NFC South to go undefeated in divisional games when they go on the road against the Carolina Panthers. So on behalf of Justin Thomas and Scott Shanle, have a great holiday season, everybody. Enjoy the game on Sunday and then on Christmas Day. We'll talk to you down the road.